All right, if you're a building professional, and I'm talking to everyone from plan checkers to field inspectors, you're going to want to pay close attention. We are about to dive deep into the massive code changes hitting us in 2026. This is where the NEC's Article 680 literally collides with California's Title 24 energy mandates, and believe me, it's going to change just about everything. Let's get right into it. And I'm not exaggerating here. This isn't just your typical code cycle with a few minor tweaks. We're looking at a fundamental shift in how we design, how we build, and most importantly, how we inspect pools and spas. It's all being driven by these two huge forces running parallel: a national push for way better electrical safety and California's really aggressive goal of decarbonization. So, to wrap our heads around all this, we're going to frame this whole thing as the inspector's journey. We'll kick things off at the plan check desk, and we'll head out into the field for the inspection. And finally, we'll look at how your job actually changes after the construction is all done. This journey really connects the why of Title 24 with the how of NEC 680. Okay, so our journey starts right at the plan check desk, and this is where the first huge revolution is already underway. California's Title 24 has completely torn up the old playbook for pool heating for every new set of plans that hits your desk, while all the old assumptions are officially out the window. So you might be asking, what is the single biggest change I need to be looking for on these plans? It's a great question, and the answer is going to impact every single new pool or major remodel that gets permitted after January 1st, 2026. And here it is, the big one. As of January 1st, 2026, Title 24 says you cannot use a gas-fired heater as the primary heat source for any new or newly heated pool. Full stop. This is a clean break from, decades of doing things the same way. Now, gas can still be used, but, and this is the key, only as a backup. The primary job of heating that water has to be handled by something else. So, what is that something else? Well, designers now have 5 distinct paths they can take to comply. They can go with a solar thermal system, they can use an electric heat pump, maybe a system that uses recovered energy, or even a combination. The absolute key for you at the plan check desk is to make sure one of these 5 options is clearly spelled out as the primary heating system long before you even see a gas heater listed for a supplemental role. And this change goes way beyond just the heater. Title 24 also now requires that new pool controls be demand response capable. Basically, they have to be able to talk to the grid. This flowchart from the CEC, this is your new best friend at the plan check desk. Think of that as the ultimate logic gate for making sure everything's compliant with the new flexible demand appliance standards. All right, so the plans are approved. Let's get out of the office and head to the job site. Imagine we're standing over a big hole in the ground, looking at all the rebar and plumbing right before the Gun A crew shows up. This is where those 2026 National Electrical Code updates really start to matter, especially when we talk about the equipotential bonding grid and some of the new materials you're about to see. For as long as I can remember, that bonding wire running around the pool shell has been solid copper. But now, NEC 680.26 officially recognizes a new option: 40% copper-clad steel, or CCS. And the reasons are pretty practical. I mean, it has way better mechanical strength, so it's much less likely to get busted up during a concrete pour, which, as you know, is crucial for keeping that bonding grid intact. The magic number you have to burn into your memory here is 40%. That's the minimum amount of copper required for this new material to be approved, and just like old school copper, it's gotta be 8 AWG or larger. And this wasn't just some random number they picked. The code-making panel looked at a ton of test data that confirmed 40% CCF has all the conductivity and corrosion resistance it needs to safely do its job in that tough pool environment. And while you're there inspecting that bonding grid, you need to widen your focus. The 2026 code revision to 680.26 actually expands the definition from just metal fittings to include metal structures. Okay, so what does that mean when you're out in the field? It means you're looking for more than just the usual suspects: the handrails, the lights. You are now responsible for spotting any significant metal component that's attached to the pool or the deck that could possibly become energized. The intent couldn't be clearer. If it's metal and it's near the water, it has to be bonded. Period. Okay, now let's connect the dots between these two giant code changes. California's Title 24 is forcing the use of these big, powerful electric heat pumps. But that created a whole new potential problem with electrical safety and reliability. And guess what? The 2026 NEC provides the solution. This is where the two codes don't just converge, they actually interlock. The problem has a name: nuisance tripping. A standard GFCI breaker is super sensitive. It's designed to trip if it senses a tiny electrical lead of just 4 to 6 milliamps. But these big, powerful heat pump motors, they have a small, totally normal built-in leakage current that can be just enough to trick a standard GFCI into tripping over and over again. You can see how this could have totally crippled the very equipment that Title 24 is now mandating. So the NEC's solution is brilliant. It's the formal recognition of new classes of special purpose GFCIs, or SPGSCIs. These new Class C, D, and E devices are engineered specifically for equipment like heat pumps. They still provide that critical personal protection, but they're smart enough to ignore the normal leakage currents from those big motors. So as an inspector, you're going to have to verify that the right class of GFCI is protecting the right piece of equipment. Now, you absolutely have to pay attention to this timeline. There is a critical transitional exception here. Up until September 1st, 2026, some listed equipment, including those pool heat pumps, can actually be installed without this new GFCI protection. But you better circle that date on your calendar, because after that day, full enforcement is absolutely mandatory. Now, of course, always check with your local AHJ, but you need to keep this hard deadline top of mind. So we've gone through plan check. We've walked the job site. But believe it or not, our journey isn't over. There is a new provision in the NEC that fundamentally changes the whole idea of long-term compliance and gives you, the inspector, an authority you've just never had before in this context. Here it is, the exact language from the new section NEC 680.4. This is a groundbreaking shift. For the very first time, the National Electrical Code explicitly gives building officials the legal power to require periodic inspections after the project is signed off. This means you could revisit a property used on the road to make sure that safety systems like the bonding grid and the GFCIs are still there and still working right. And that brings us right to our final thought, and it's a big one to chew on. For your entire career, your job was pretty much done when you signed that final permit. But with this new authority, is that final signature now just the beginning of a long-term commitment to public safety? This change really transforms the role of an inspector, from a one-time verifier to an ongoing guardian of aquatic safety. It's a pretty profound shift to think about as these new codes start to roll out.